Schubert. I'm currently an artist in resident at Arrowmont, and I also have worked in the show, The Top Floor. This is a shadow cranky play called The Realness of Things that I finished this summer. Have you ever been to a place where the air seemed different? Not by any discernible means, not necessarily lighter or heavier, but somehow electrically charged, as if there were an energy present not really found or felt in other places. When I was younger, I traveled to such a place. It's a place where the very air I breathed felt infused with mystery and ancient knowing. This place was an island in the middle of the sea. At the beginning of time, a great snake from the world below wrapped himself around the island and pulled it to the surface of the ocean waters. Magma turned to lava and oozed out of the earth to a symphony of fire, steam, and newly formed rock. The king of the sea turtles swam up to support the island from below and fell asleep. He's been holding the island up ever since. And nobody knows what will happen the day he wakes up. I found myself there on that island, confronted by the realness of things. What makes something real? Does believing in something make it real? Does a whole village believing in something make it real? Or is there already something there? There in that ethereal energy that is sparked awake by someone with fresh eyes and open ears to whom it can tell its story. Many people on the island believed in not one, but two worlds. One was physical, tangible, seen. The other was not. And it was this world that was the source of the energy that seemed to possess a consciousness all its own. During my time on the island, many strange things happened. And I heard stories of many strange things that happened to others. To be honest, I can't explain them and have many questions myself. But this unseen world exists throughout our planet in other capacities. People call it by different names. But it all comes back to the things we can't quite grasp or understand. Ghosts, miracles, signs from the universe. But you have a choice. You get to choose to believe or not believe. All I can do is relay the story. But if you ask me, it's the story itself and the meaning that it holds. That's what's really real in the end. The first strange thing happened in a room. The year before, many strange things happened in the room. A woman I knew had stayed there and been awoken in the night by the lights flickering, on and off. Her eyes grew wide as she said that something or someone icy cold slipped into bed next to her. And then, she said, it was gone. By chance, it was my turn to stay in the room, and I slept there with a friend in the twin bed next to mine. And there were no flickering lights or icy cold figures, but we awoke with strange looks on our faces due to our strange dreams. We had dreamt the same thing. They weren't very interesting or very coherent, but the first night we dreamt that our big toenails had fallen out. The second night we dreamt that we had both tried a cigarette for the very first time. And the third night, we were chased away by a slithering green snake. Three nights, three dreams, all the same. I was then driven to a remote village over the mountains. I'll never forget the drive because we rode behind a truck piled high with sacks of rice, and with each curve in the road, the stack would teeter back and forth. Glued to my seat in fear, I imagined someone solemnly telling my parents their daughter had died, crushed under 2 tons of rice. After arriving and settling in, I found myself chopping vegetables in a kitchen with a kind old woman. And as if she could read my mind, she told me that she too had dreams she couldn't explain. She dreamt that she had flown to the top of a mountain south of her village. There she found a dark stone shaped like a pot in a cave filled with cool water. She then flew to a temple built on a rock in the middle of the sea. And there she saw people playing instruments. They were shiny and glowing. After listening to the music for a while, she decided to fly home, but not knowing how to land, she fell into her neighbor's bamboo patch, and she crushed some of the stalks with her weight. When she awoke, there was a small Chinese coin on the pillow next to her with an arrow on it, facing south, and she knew she must go. As word of her dream traveled, many people followed her to the mountain, and there she found the cave and drank of the cool water. The stone pot was a shallow one, and nearly 200 people drank from it that day. It's still a holy spring that you can visit. Intrigued and in disbelief, I decided to go for a walk after dinner. It was dark out, but the lanterns were lit, and the night was cool and warm. I walked down to the stream that was just beyond the gates because the sound was welcoming. But as I got halfway down the hill, there was a sudden change. A gust of wind nearly blew me off my feet. And over the hill in front of me came a glowing ball of light. It was too big to be the light from a firefly, and much too contained to be the beam of light from a flashlight. I stared mesmerized, as it floated like a dandelion seed on the wind, down to the little stream where it went out. As it passed me, I could hear voices. And to be honest, I do not know how long I stood there, mesmerized by its glow, before it became urgent to move. And I ran back to my bed, terrified and confused. The next day, I decided to ask the woman if anything else strange had happened to her. I thought maybe the orb had been a dream too. When I asked, she laughed and winked and told me 2 more unbelievable stories. As a young girl, she went out to the fields to help her father pick cloves. That morning, she had put on her sister's favorite ring and forgotten to take it off. She had also forgotten to make the traditional offering to the spirits. About an hour into picking, she heard a high-pitched laugh come from behind her, and she looked behind her to see who it was, but there was nothing there. And then she felt something pull her sister's ring off her finger. She panicked, not knowing what to do, fearful of her sister's anger for losing her favorite ring. She looked everywhere, in the sacks of cloves, in her pockets, in the fields. It was nowhere to be found. But then she remembered the forgotten offering and ran home to make it. And though the day drew to a close, she couldn't find the ring. She carried in the last sack of rice, and then heard the high-pitched laugh again. She whirled around, determined this time to see who it really was. When she turned back, there was her sister's ring, sitting atop the sack of cloves she had just set down. Much later in her life, after she had been married and had 2 children, she was out in the forest baking cacao on a rainy day. The rain had become far too much for her, so she decided to head home, but then saw this billowing smoke. She ran to her house to see what was the matter, and there on the ground was a circle of fire burning. And it started to spin faster and faster and grew taller and taller and taller until it exploded upwards with a loud crack. The sound was so loud the woman thought that she had gone deaf. But as she regained her hearing, she ran to her neighbors for counsel and advice. Sat there stunned, not really knowing what to say. And then I asked her what she thought it all meant. She said that they were reminders to keep the balance. That evil has to exist in order for there to be good, and that for everything seen, there is that much more that's unseen, and sometimes the balance just flips. And then she looked at me with hard, strong eyes and said, "It's important because it's real. These things happened. And if you don't believe it, it could be just a tale, but it still has meaning." These words stuck with me as later that month I found myself in a family's backyard, getting ready to watch a traditional dance ceremony. It was a brilliant evening full of stars, and my head swam with all the stories I had collected over the previous months. The music began, and the row of men in front of me all simultaneously lit their pipes, sending a thick cloud of sweet, sticky smoke curling above their heads. The dance had barely begun when I started to feel immensely claustrophobic. Or at least I think that was the feeling, as I had never really felt it before. I got dizzy and decided it must be the smoke, so I stepped outside for some fresh air. My friend ran after me, and she started asking me questions, but I couldn't hear her. She sounded so far away. My head spun, and I fell to my knees. My heart started pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. And then I felt a gust of wind, like on the hill in the village, and I thought about the glowing orb. The next thing I knew, hot, stinging tears were running down my cheeks, and I was taking big gasps between sobs. It was the most inexplicable thing, because it wasn't me. I wasn't crying. It was something else. There was something else. It came in behind my eyes like a shadow. Inside, I was paralyzingly calm as I watched this thing take over. What was it? Was it that thing from the first room? Did it follow me? Was it in me? I don't know. It sounds crazy because it felt crazy. And then suddenly the thing that was using my voice stopped sobbing and cackled. A high-pitched, eerie cackle that echoed seemingly forever into the night. Inside, my internal calm slipped into panic. My eyes clouded over. And all I can remember is yelling at the thing to get out and go away. And please leave. Please leave. Please leave. Into nothingness. I awoke shivering with a splitting headache. My friend was sitting next to me and she asked me what had happened, and I just shook my head. With big eyes, she said quietly, "You look like you were trapped." And I just nodded. To this day, I can't really tell you what happened. Panic attack, maybe? Anxiety attack? But I've experienced those in life, and this simply was not that. But whatever it was, it opened me up to a level of belief I simply could not reach before. And it's a terrifying thing. When I finally returned home, I returned to another island in the middle of the sea. One big enough to be a continent, built mostly by the hands and on the backs of men. No ancient sea turtles or mythic snakes. And the air seemed to fall flat. But as I lay awake at night now, thinking of all that has occurred, I can hear the wind pick up. And a little chime in the distance. And if you ask me, I think that unseen world is still there. It always has been, trapped under all of the metal and concrete and pollution and noise, full of magic and potential, full of stories waiting to reveal themselves to those who want to believe.